Hi, this is Brian Whitaker at Whitts Ranch, home of BKW horsemanship, New Germany, Minnesota, in the middle of winter. We got a video here with D. Now, if you follow along at all, this I believe is the last time, or I'm sorry, the video previous to this with D tracking cattle for the first time was probably the last. No, it wasn't. I rode her one other time in between here. I'm just giving you a little background because I'm well aware of how my last ride went with her on cattle, and this was also with cattle with her for the first time. At this point, I probably have between 12, 15, 16 rides on her total. They've been admittedly a little sporadic lately. We're in the middle of winter, sometimes the weather. You see that right there? See that? Just that picking up on that rein. When she wanted to walk off, that's so important to me, they stand still. Um, I could have helped her out a little bit more by shifting the saddle a little bit to get her feet to bear the weight of me mounting a little better. But also, I didn't get on her until she stopped that foot, and I just lifted the rein to stop the foot. Kind of a short little sequence there, but it's real important to me a horse does not move when I get on or off, and I practice that a lot. Just asking for some lateral flexion here. And I'm well aware, like I said, the last ride I did her with cattle, I didn't have 100% focus with her, and I felt like it could have been better. And there was a lot of things I felt like I could have done differently, uh, approached it differently, shown her differently to get a better result. We ended on a good note, and you see me how I'm reaching way out there to help her with her stiffness. She doesn't really want to bend her head and neck and step that hindquarters through. So that is also what I worked on in between these two videos of the ride between there in the arena, is just really getting that hindquarters to step over. If it's not stepping over really good, if she's not really being real supple and soft when I'm just in the arena, when things should be easy, it won't be as good, or it definitely would be worse out here in real life scenarios. And in the snow, we got a fresh coating of snow here. It's not that it's slippery, but they have to be a little more mindful, and so do I, of their feet, of what they're doing with them, because it has a potential to be slippery. A lot of people have a hard time with that right stirrup. And if you do, the best thing is, instead of just trying to fumble around with your foot, just reach down, and you don't even have to reach that far. You can just touch the leather of your stirrup and help yourself out. So I'm really working a lot on the hindquarters here. A little background here. I'm giving a lesson here to this with lesson on cattle horseback. So that is also something I do. And while I do that, I think it's best to be horseback. Um, I think we have enough background with this student here that I can use a younger horse like this if it was something where I needed to show in different ways. I'd be on a horse that was a little more advanced. So you can see she wants to go towards the cattle, which is great. And you can see I'm shifting directions, but I'm really trying to get that hindquarters because she's still really bracy here, and I can feel it. And you'll be able to see it. The best evidence to see it from this distance is to watch how the tail is. The head, that's also another area that's pretty obvious, but the tail, like right there, see how she wants to. And I'm just reaching way out. So I'm borrowing this from Ray Hunt from a video I watched, but he talked about, especially with a youngster, you're just leading them from their back. So when you're horseback, you're just leading them. And that's what I'm trying to do here with Hackamore, is just basically like what I would do on the ground if she got stuck and I needed her to step over, is I'd shift my position more to her hindquarters to help with her nose to step through. So I'm trying to do that horseback. I'm just leading her from her back. That made a lot of sense to me. Maybe where you're at right now, it doesn't make much sense. And I'm probably doing not the best job explaining it. So if you want a better explanation, obviously, get a Ray Hunt DVD or whatever and and get that explanation. But that made a lot of sense to me. And when she gets stuck and when she gets bracy, or any horse, I think about that. As you get more advanced, you shouldn't have to reach out this far with my hand, but that's just where we're at. Over time, I won't have to reach near as far. My hands will be more together, and as the ride goes, I won't have to reach out as far either. So I'm just trying to get the cattle out of this corner here because we're going to do some stuff. You can see how I want a horse not to be bothered by my hands there. I'm doing that to move the cattle, and she was a little bothered by that, and then I'd slap my hand against my chinks there. You can see there she was bothered, and I said, no worries. We'll just bend your nose here. This isn't about you, and that's why it's important for me not to have her get a horse, desensitized. I don't want her desensitized to that. I just want her to understand what that motion means. And I tell you, they get that so fast. Most of the time, if you present them what you're asking in a clear manner, look at the cattle, stare at the camera. They get it so fast, faster than most people. And I'm not trying to put anybody down, but they just start understanding it real quick that, oh, this isn't about me. But I also do other things, like when I was doing some groundwork with her, I would gently throw my lead rope up over her back and say, with the saddle, and say, I know that makes some weird noises, but I don't want you to worry about it. I just need to do that. So she'll start understanding me slapping my leg, me raising my rope up, raising my hand up isn't about her. Look at this heifer. She's like, what? Am I on camera here? Cattle are just looking super, super good this year. We've not had a bad winter, really. This is only the second or third major snowfall we had. I think around 6 inches, but it was kind of nice to have because it was getting kind of crusty and icy. So a little fresh snow. You can see there in the foreground here, there's some hay underneath that snow. I had unrolled a round bale of hay in this lot to, well, there's quite a few reasons why I did that, but you can see how quickly this snowfall is barely 24 hours old, and they start finding that hay. The horses will paw through it. The cattle will root through and find that hay and start eating on that. And it's not wasted, and it's good because this lot's kind of a dry lot, and I wouldn't mind some grass growing in here. So that's going to help get some fertilization, some seeds in here to help it grow. And by spring, you won't hardly even see any of this hay, just some manure where they were eating. So we're just talking about some concepts. This is some edited video here coming up. This is an hour-long video, or sorry, an hour-long lesson, but this video ended up being around 40 minutes actual footage. You can see I took out some of the warm-ups, and then there's some spots where we just talk about some concepts. I like to throw out concepts to people about in real-life scenarios and not always tell them this is what you should do, because I want people to think a little more for themselves, and I also want them to think maybe a different way would be better, and that's usually open for discussion. But this is the concepts, this is the real life scenarios I want you to think about. So instead of me just telling you what to do, I want people to think a little more independently for their own. Now, there's times, of course, where I'll say, no, that's the incorrect thing to do no matter what. And I think somewhere in here I'll show that. So I start out sometimes people and say, okay, just get them to flow in a clockwise manner. And I use that word on purpose, flow, because there's a certain flow they get. And when cattle, even when they're feeling good like this, they're jumping around, throwing their heads up, tails in the air, there still should be a flow to them. And you don't want the flow spread out in every different direction and through the fence. That's not my idea of a flow. See how they're good they're feeling. So we just start off at a walk. I never want to get too crazy with this. First of all, like I said, the footing here, we're on ice. See that tail come up? So that tail was kind of the indicator, and then she threw her head up. Now, there's a horse here behind the camera that was creating quite a fuss. Horse that got in training and hollering and carrying on, and that energy can kind of get, especially a young horse, distracted. It's no excuse, but it's something to keep in mind. So I'm just trying to lead her from I'm leading her, but I'm riding her. There, right there, a little jump. So, but it was great that that happened at that moment. If it's gonna happen, a bolt or a jump, well, I was trying to get the hindquarters anyway. There, it's starting to step through, and when it does, I just release her. I'm just trying not to do too much with her right now with D. And when it feels right, I'm gonna pet her because I'm keeping in mind the ride before this, or I should say 2 rides before, of tracking for the first time. That doesn't mean I let her just do anything. There's a little edit because we're talking about things. I left this in because of what's coming up right here. In fact, I think at the moment, it's right on cue, we were talking about how you need to let your reins get long at times so your horse can do that right there. That is so important to me. She's not trying to reach and eat grass. I promise you, there's no grass there. She's not trying to eat the snow. She's just reaching out, extending those not only down, but her head kind of comes forward, and from between her ears all the way to the tail, everything stretches forward. And I want them to be able to feel like they can do that. And I'm not always restricting them and keeping a hold on them. I always tell people, you don't have to have your reins like it's a parking brake. They're not going to go anywhere. If they are, you just bend them, you just get their feet to work. And then I was happy here is how little it took to get her to move back out. This is something I've been working on with her. Sometimes it takes a little more than I'd want, but whatever's necessary to get her to move her feet. And that was I just don't like to sit in one spot too long and let them get stale. Now that was an edit, so we were probably standing there, a lot longer. And then she moved off my legs real nice here. It's nice to practice this with another horse around. Sometimes they get like a magnet towards the other horse, and that can become quite dangerous. You try to get them to do anything away from that horse, and they can completely lose it sometimes. So you can see right there is it's never a bad time unless the conditions are bad to get the hindquarters. You can do it over and over too much in one's time, but you see some time goes on, and I'm just reminding her, I'm just practicing it. So there, I'm just letting her to get the cattle out there, move in, get a flow going, left and right. That's why it's so important to get to your horse's feet, left and right, be able to stop. All these different things, all these different maneuvers we practice on now is we're going to come to what I'd say a real life scenario here and, get the horse on the payroll. So we're just talking about left and right and doing less to get more. See how little it took to move these cattle here? And they're not bothered. They're not, spooky or anything, but we don't want to get them that way. And I always say these cattle, talk about real life, the more you move them, the more calories you burn. The more calories you burn, the more, the more weight you take off. Well, weight equals money when it comes to cattle. So let's not do any more than we need to. Sometimes you got to do whatever it takes. If you got one that's loose or whatever, you got to rope it, but that's a different deal. It's winter. Let's just let them get, they need fat for warmth. Let's let them keep as much fat. And these are all grass fed here. There's no other, they eat nothing other than hay, which if you don't know what hay is, it's processed, it's dried grass for the most part. There's some clover and all that other kind of stuff in here, but that's basically it. And then some mineral and water, and then there's some shelter that if they choose to, they can, but they'd hardly ever go in there. They went in there. It's an open shelter, so they can come in and out as they please. They went in there the morning we had some snow, and the cattle, boy, there was 13 in there, and they were all piled in there together on some dry bedding, and they stay warm. I mean, they're just one big ball of cattle, and you can sometimes just feel the warmth when you walk up there. And horses are a little different. Usually they don't get in that tight ball, at least not my experience, when they kind of get around in a shelter sometimes or a windbreak, but cattle will lay in a big bundle. So we're just talking about some concepts here, just what worked, what doesn't work with the cattle, and in the meantime, I'm kind of doing some stuff with D here. Yeah, that's just kind of a side note with my cattle. I choose to, I've done it different ways. I've raised cattle and fed cattle conventionally. Last few years here, I've been trying to do all grass fed, and this year is probably so far the best year where they really kept their condition up well. I unroll all those bales out in the pasture. That's behind me where I'm standing now. In fact, you can see a little dab of cattle out there on a bale, and boy, it helps the land so much to do that. There, just a little hindquarter there, get that to move, and I said that was good. That felt good. Now move on with D there. In fact, there's a little calf at the gate there. A hopeful replacement heifer for this next summer. I like her head butt movement. I'm just liking how she's moving out right here. And I'm talking about D here. We'll just ride by that one like it's not there, give it some room, and keep moving on. You don't always have to move them. Little hand signals. Moving cattle is a lot harder than it looks, I think. There's some edit here. Again, let my horse just kind of move her head around and stretch forward, giving some suggestions moving cattle. And I like how free and easy it is to move D out now. I feel like that's a major thing I was working on with her. And if she got stuck, a lot of times I go to the hindquarters, but sometimes I just move left and right with her. Say, okay, you don't need to move forward in that direction, but we need to move forward. Backwards with your tail in the air is not going to work for me. Sometimes I'll come up and help my students with the cattle movements or whatever, and sometimes I'll set back, and a lot of times I'll demonstrate. I feel like that helps a lot. Now, that was real good. I said to her, now ignore that cow that's at the water. Let's say we just need to peel off one and leave one or two for whatever reason. Again, I like the free movement in my horse here. She's not too bothered. And my student did a good job here of just walking by that one, going left and right. You do that a lot. Those two, they're kind of playing there, and I said, you got to watch that. You can't get in the middle of that because you'll end up in a wreck. They're just feeling good, no big deal. All right, so you can see I'm waiting them behind there on purpose, letting them get the cattle experience here. I do a lot of stopping, make sure your horse is with you. This is a nice big lot to work in, and it's kind of, it's not a circle, but I kind of have people work in a circle. I think that's a real good way to work cattle. And of course, they're drawn to different areas. That one behind me there, she was kind of drawn to water. So we let her drop off there. And then the cattle that we move, they're drawn to that gate. They can also go out to that pasture and eat the hay. That's something I've experimented a lot more this year. Is trying to have the horses with the cattle. It doesn't always work well, but it's working well because I want as much of my round bales to be unrolled out in that new pasture there through the gate, that red gate that we were working on earlier last spring that was newly planted. So I want as much good seed and fertilization out there as possible. It's just good for the animals to get out and about. They're out in the sun. See, now I know that she's trying to reach down to that hay, and I'm aware of that. So instead of just me keep pulling and bumping on her, let's put those feet to work. You bored? You're trying to eat? Oh, let's go. Let's do something here. That was a nice round turn there. It may not seem like much, but it's better than that tail coming up and her getting bound up and bracy. No, they'll improvise here. I was trying to get my student to get this cow to go one direction, and she kind of decided to go this way, and I said, that's okay. We'll just let her go. We'll come back and we were just kind of talking about the different angles. And the angles, especially when you rope, are so important to how you maneuver your horse and to be able to see if you want to stop and eat the hay there. Which it's amazing how quick they're able to get through the snow and get to that hay that's been unrolled there. Now that's not hay that's been sitting there a long time and it's been soiled on. It was just unrolled a few days before that. And they come in. It's funny what I kind of unroll different kinds of hay to see what they're going to eat, and they eat certain kinds sometimes and certain kinds other. But I was real happy with Dee. I was actually more happy how I could approach this in a different way. I felt like the first time I got on cattle wasn't the best. It wasn't bad, but it could have been better, and I could have done some things better. I could have had more focus. Probably not something I've really never done that I can think of where I have a student with me while it's first time on cattle with my horse. Not that it's all bad. I'd like to put a little more focus onto my horse. So that was a good job of just getting the cattle to go by the gate there. That can be a troublesome thing. And now we're just trying to sort off some things here. But she stopped when I wanted her to stop. And just practicing this bending, getting the hindquarters. She's kind of drawn to go out that gate. The other horses are way off to the right here. You can't see way beyond. So she's aware of them. Dee is, but she's not too bothered by it. But yet she knows that's the place that she's kind of it's a place she's trying to gravitate to. And I'm aware of that, so I just switch it up here. This is nice free movement, and I'm not having to ask her too much to move forward. I feel like that's from working on the hindquarters. Like I'm freeing the whole horse up by getting to the hindquarters, by stepping them through. She stopped well there. A little leak there at the end, but just kind of to square up. But I asked her lightly to stop. She stopped. That's getting better. And I'm using my seat, my body first, and the reins are last. That's one thing to really pay attention to is what are you using the most? What's first? I'd say most people it's the reins. And some people really never let go of the reins. It's hard for a lot of people that I work with to completely let the reins get loose. And I don't mean loose with a, 4-foot long reins either. It's, get these McCartys are, 20 some feet long, but that's including some of the lead rope. But still, I mean, you're dealing with a lot of slack there that when you get like there, your horse is able to put their head down and stretch it out. And that's difficult for a lot of people because that they use the reins as a crutch. And when they are not able to have some sort of contact with their horse all the time, it feels weird to them. But I'm telling you, it feels good to your horse. And this is myself including. This is something, that guy's feeling good. This is something I can work on a lot more too. Getting more slack in the reins more often. When I pick up, it should mean something, and then get out of there. Especially with these these less experienced young horses, especially horses that have been bothered by that a lot. Is when you pick up, it should mean something. You shouldn't just have your reins always in contact, and especially when you're standing there, just visiting. Boy, your reins should be slack. So we're letting that cow go by. And I said, okay, let's track that one on through. Nice turn to the left there. I'm just trying to get her to kind of go in a serpentine pattern left and right to keep her from getting locked up here. That was pretty good. And a lot of this is improvised. I might move on a little bit and keep doing that. Or like there, see that? She's getting pulled to that gate. That red gate where most of the cattle are, where she kind of lives out that direction. So, and then she's real good. See how loose? I can't get much more slack than that. Be able to see those reins get nice and loose in there, and that's good. Just I'm using my body to help her steer left and right or whatever. I've got purpose with my body. I'm looking up. It's another thing people have a hard time with is you ask them to move their horse out, and the only thing they ever do is look down and kick. And well, you got to look up to where you want to go because that opens up your body more. And I thought it was interesting that black one there, the guy behind us. We dropped him off like we were tracking him, and I said, okay, for a good exercise, just drop the one and keep tracking the other. And we dropped that one, and he stood there for a good 15, 20 minutes, it seemed like. Just didn't want to go back to the others. And it's when you do these things quietly and with little effort, they just kind of learn to accept more what you're doing. It works. A lot of the cattle work to me it goes along with good horsemanship. Less is more. Doing things quiet, presenting things in a different way, and yeah, there's times where they don't go right, they don't go your way, and you have to change it up for sure. But here, this cow, she wanted to stop and eat hay, and we're just trying to drive her away a little bit. We were talking there for a little bit. I like how well D will stand here. Now, wasn't that just a couple of bumps there with my feet, real light ones, and she moved? That'd be a good time to work on the hindquarters. You can see she's a little bracy through her head and neck there. And also not the best stepping through, so I'll wait on that a little bit. Bringing my right foot back behind the back cinch to get her to understand this is more about your hindquarters now. And I liked how that felt. Let her know. See, and I'm just bouncing that rope off my legs, saying don't worry about these things. Clearly it's not for you. She's able to stretch that head out, stretch it down. If I got tight reins all the time, they can't do this, and they need that for relief, especially after something like that, where she was a little bracy, a little tight. It felt better, and then that's her release. Nice turn to the left there. See, it doesn't take so much now. Forward movements there. So much better. And that's just after a couple of one ride in between here from the other video where I tracked for the first time to this one. So, didn't have to do a whole lot. Just a lot of what I'm working on is just not doing what got myself kind of in trouble from the last one. From the last ride. There, she's kind of, see, she wants to double back there to that gate, and I'm aware of that, and there's different ways I could approach that. It's not a big deal. She just says, how about we go back this way? She's not insisting. She's not running off with me. She's not, getting really upset with me. She just goes, should we go back that way? And I just lead her from her back and say, no, this way. And then just sometimes stand there. That's all you got to do now, horse. Just stand here. And then be ready, though. Just because I want you to stand here and be quiet doesn't mean I want you dull. Quiet horses are not dull. There's a big difference. Oh, my horse is quiet. Boy, he doesn't bother. Nothing bothers him. You could put a bomb underneath him and he would not. Yeah, but boy, if you want him to go somewhere you don't want him, or he doesn't want to go, look out. Your quiet horse isn't so quiet anymore. He's just dull. There, and so now I'm just kind of stepping in and say, maybe this is be a better way to get this heifer to move left and right. We're just trying to drive this heifer off towards kind of like that automatic water. So I'm showing just a lot of left and right here. Don't always go to their hip. Sometimes you go to their head. There, now I'm just kind of ending with a little bit of just trying to get some movement here. Someday what I'd like to do, just for future reference, is I've been looking into some wireless microphones that I could actually hook up to this camera while I'm recording. I'm not sure if that's a possibility with this camera. I've actually done quite a bit of research. I know which microphones I could attempt to use, but I think there's times, because sometimes I sort of forget, honestly, this hasn't been more than a few hours ago they actually did this. I can't remember exactly what I was saying or what the concepts were, and maybe that'd be helpful. There, nice movement with the hindquarters there. That was real good. She's a little bracy, and she's got a habit of tipping her ears. She rolls her head kind of pointing down one way or another, and I want those ears even. That's more important to me than how far I can flex that her nose left or right, is how even are those ears. If one's ears way dip, then your horse is out of balance. They're out of whack. There, see that? That's what I'm referring to. She's getting way dipped, and look at that. She's bracy. What a shock. Well, she's bracy because she's really not giving. She's tipping that left ear way down. So that's real obvious there. So just hang in there. Some people might think, well, they're giving. No, they aren't, because first of all, she's still pulling on me. Her head might be around. Her nose is only what's come to my hand, though. It's not her whole head. So she kind of wanted to always move towards this gate, and I said, okay, good. Let's go. Let's try. Come on, let's go. Let's trot off towards that gate. And then let's do some more exercises here. Now I'm just moving that black one out of the way a little bit. He's a little bit cantankerous anyway, so I make sure he keeps moving. And I make sure I always get to the hind on those cattle that are a little bit, the ones that are a little watchy, that want to kind of turn and face you. Try to always keep getting the hind, and don't get in between the fences with them. And so there, a little movement there, and I just kept my foot in there and say, no, you stand still when I get off, because I've talked about this on many videos about getting your horse. Here's another one. Don't move, horse. Well, if I can't get my horse to stand still in an arena with good ground, and I try to get on here with riding boots, and it's a little slick, and my horse moves an inch, that becomes exponentially more difficult and dangerous. Snow is slippery. That's the way it is. It doesn't have to be slippery or dangerous, but little things like little movements forward or things like that, and of course your boot going into your stirrup, that's always going to be a little more slippery. So that's why it's so much more important to keep those horses standing on and off. Now I'm just getting some lateral flexion again because I got off and on and opened that gate. And you'll see here I hold a little bit because she gives, but she tips her head. See right there? That's just a bad habit, tipping that ear down. That puts all that weight onto the front foot, on one foot in particular, and I don't want that. I want a nice even horse. And I can feel that when they do that. If you think about it, when they get off like that, when they're tipping, it means they're leaning their weight. They're putting all that weight into that one, whatever side they're tipping. See a little tail, a little bit of a head comes up. She says, no, I want to go out that gate. You open that gate for me to go with my buddies. No, I did not. So instead of getting in a fight, I just do little movements here. Now we're just a little different exercise with the cattle. I was real happy with the student here. I said, okay, now just take one by one, take them out the gate. Seems simple, but it can be tough sometimes. So she got that calf to go out, but those two calves caused a little traffic jam, so I said, I'll clean this up. This is something I can do with Dee. It'd be good for her because she thinks we're going out this gate. In fact, I let her think, okay, you want to go out so bad, let's go. Let's do something with those feet now. Now I'm trying to see how she's bracy there. She says, no, I want to go back. See, the tail comes up. Now I can feel that. It's not that I felt her tail necessarily come up, but I can feel before the tail's coming up that brace in her back, in her neck, in her head, in her feet, and all that. I can feel that brace. And then the tail comes up. So you should be able to, it's not like you got to look at the tail, but you should be able to feel it if you're listening. And then look how quickly she changes. Just real eager, good expression here. I'm just kind of going left and right. Sometimes you can't really see off camera and helping with the cattle here. We're just trying to have one go out at a time, one by one. Nice and quiet. I'm big on that. I said, they don't need to try and jam through these gates or the fence. In fact, that red gate there, to the left of that, you can't see it, is only one strand of electric. So if you push hard, they're going through it. So the goal here is Brian doesn't want to have to do any more work on his fences than he has to. So get those cattle to go out quiet and don't rush them. See now my horse is able to put her head down, stretch forward. It's not just the down, it's the stretching forward and getting all that out. Now she was a little bracy there, and I said, okay, step this through a little bit. And I said, do it faster. Don't give me all of this, I can't do it, I'm bracy. Step through. See that? And the tail comes up. I'm not trying to get in a fight with her, but I'm saying, you know what? Sometimes you got to do it. Step through a little more. And there's a little improvise of stepping forward as I step through. You see that? She wanted to go out that gate. She got a little frustrated with me. There's the tail a little bit again. That'll go away. She'll realize just to do what's asked of her is so much easier than trying to only do what she wants. Now, that's not to say I just tell her, do what I want because I'm telling you to. That doesn't mean that. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of what she might want, just a little bit. But this is a partnership here. We got to get the feet to work for me so that I can do things with you. Like right there, the head comes up, tail comes up a little bit. See that brace? Well, you can just see it. And then, boom, it goes away. That's why I just don't make it a big deal. If you make it a big deal, well, you might have a big deal on your hands. And what I mean by that is just get a few steps. Just get a little here and there. Don't demand so much, especially when you get them working for you. Then don't demand more and more. Little bits here and there. That's what this takes for me, especially with these younger horses. There, and then all of a sudden I'll just have a different horse there for a little bit. Now, look at that was one of her best turns there. Because she's starting to understand this is about the cattle too. This isn't just about do as I say. This is, well, okay, we're trying to get this cow to do this or over here or stop them from going through or getting them to go through. See, a much more willing horse, and the cattle help so much with that. Doesn't matter the breed, doesn't matter your discipline. I've had all kinds of breeds and disciplines, and it helps them all so much. There's LaBrace. She says, I'd like to go out with that cow. I said, I know, but just get your hindquarters stepped through, and then maybe we will. There, like that. And I said, okay, now let's go. You want to go so much? Let's go. Let's get somewhere. Let's cover some ground, horse. See, I go out this way and say, you want to come out here so bad? Let's go. You know, within reason. You can't be able to see here with the post. But I'm just getting the hindquarters to step through. Probably going to do it in a little bit faster manner because I said, all right, this is where you wanted to be. We're going to make this work. See, she's trying to pull off towards those other horses. And then I just let her be here. See, a little veer that way. But I have to let her be to see where she's at. Say, okay, now just loose rein. Oh, let's go this way. And I said, no, I'll just block that before it gets to be a problem. Just by picking up a rein, taking a leg, doing something. And my focus is forward, though. That's the important thing. Don't act like your horse isn't going to go through that gate because of maybe some struggles you had. Act like they're going to go right through it. Right through and into the next county where you want them to be, for that matter. Have that mindset. Be looking up. Breathe extra long breaths. You know, don't be looking down, short breaths, and acting like you're going to get off or searching for something on the ground because they're going to stop and go, oh, did we not want to go through here? This is finding somewhere to get out here. Okay, this is the part where I hung in here now because she was wanting to brace. I'm just asking her to flex left and right just like when I got on her. And she felt like she needed to do something, move her feet, and I just hung in there. I just petted her once in a while to say, no, you don't have to move your feet now. This is just about giving me really it's about not just bending your neck. It's rotating that axis, rotating through the head. That's what it's about for me, because then the neck will come after that. But see that dip, that right ear? So I say, no, that's not it either. I know you're giving me your head, but that's not it either. And she'll sort that out because when she levels those ears out, the head will come up and she'll still be bent and then they'll be slack in the rein. That's how I know. So even though the head's bent, it's still pulling on me because she's actually pulling harder because that ear is tipped away from me and she's putting all that weight on that right front when she does that. And I don't want that. So find a spot there to get out. Stand still as I get off you, because I don't want you to move mid when I, dismount. That's a good way to end up on the top of my head or hit the back of my head against the ground. Been there. How do I know that? Been there. It's happened. And the horse at that, when it's happened, they didn't even move that fast. But it's like someone took a rug that you were stepping on with one foot and just pulled it out from underneath you. Guess where you're going to land? Right on the back of your head. Been there. And it wasn't necessarily, it was just not a malicious horse. Just they felt like when you lifted the leg, they had to move out. Well, no. Give them till they don't do that. Thought I was going to get off there, but decided just not loving this yet. Just a little more free feeling. Look at it. See, I want to go out that gate though. Yeah, we've been out that gate. How did that work for you? So I kind of just point her in a different direction. See a little movement there, and that's why I'm going to work on this more than in the arena or whatever. Some of it was just regaining her balance, and that's why I'm telling her don't tip your head. Don't brace, because I want you to keep your balance as we're doing things. So I hope this helps. Hope this gave you something to think about. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and, if you like what you see, subscribe to my channel, and there's a notification bell. That'll let you know the next ones that get loaded. And if you like the video, click the thumbs up. Let me know if you have any questions. Nice little ride with Dee. And then watch now as I'll pet her a little bit here, I think. But see how she's with me? This is what I talked about, too, about not pushing you through the gates. Because we're not going through that gate. So yeah, that was nice. And she's really, I liked how she ended here because she's with me. As I step over here, before the lead rope gets, see, it never gets tight. She's with me. She got a little tight there. She's had to rearrange her feet. So thanks for watching.